Dear students, welcome to online biology classes. So yesterday, the previous class, we are going to be seen about the nervous system introduction, then how the nervous system is reacted with the various kinds of activity in the form of stimuli we are seen in the previous classes. Then what do you mean by nerve cell? What is neuron? We are seen in the previous classes. Then we have seen about the structure of neuron. The neuron which consists of three kinds of different parts, that is called cyton, dendrites and axon. We are seeing then three different types of nerve cells: unipolar, bipolar and multipolar. We are seen in the previous classes. So according to this continuation, today we are going to be seen about the transmission of nerve impulse. So the transmission of nerve impulse is nothing but all the information from the environment are detected by the receptor located in our sense organ, such as, so that means all type of the information which is seen by the environment. For example, we are seeing this apple, so which is sensed by the eyes, the information which is passed on to the brain. The brain is already recorded this is apple. That's why we are saying that this is apple. So the sensory organs are eye, nose, skin, etc. So eyes, which is visible to all types of object. Nose, we are sensed by the smell. Then skin, we have to done some kind of touching, we detected by the skin. The information from the receptor is transmitted as a electrical impulse received dendritic tips of the neuron. So how the electrical impulse are transmitted? Yesterday class we are seen in the synapses. That time I told you, so the receiving point of the signal, that is called dendrites. The dendrite which is pass on into the electrical impulse to the cyton. The cyton which can pass on into the electrical impulse into the axon. From the axon terminal itself, which is pass on with another neuron. Then on reaching the axonal end, it causes the nerve ending to release the chemical neurotransmitter which is diffused across the synapse and starts the similar electrical impulse to the dendrites, the next neuron. Then to their cell body to carry along the axon. So again I told you. So what do you mean from here? The dendrites, they are receiving the signal from any part of the sensory organ. Then the signal which is passed by the electrical impulse to the cyton, the cyton which carry the impulse into the axon. From axon itself, which is move on with the axon terminal, which is connected with another one type of neuron, then which is directly connected with the central nervous system in the form of brain or spinal cord. Then in this way the electrical signal reaches into the brain or spinal cord. Again I told you, the signal which is sensed by the receptor, which is recorded or which is passed on with the brain or spinal cord, because it is a central nervous system organ which can control all the activities of our body. Then flow of the nerve impulse from the axonal end of one neuron to the dendrite of the another neuron is synapses is called a synaptic transmission. From this diagram, which is clearly exposing that, so the dendron which can receive the signal, then they are carried by the cyton. From cyton to axon, which is passed on with another neuron. Then each neuron can be transmit with 1000 nerves impulse per second. So each and every type of neuron which is carried with 1000 impulse, that is from the single second. By the same time, many 10,000s of synaptic contact with another neuron. They are receiving the 1000 time, but what they are doing? They are transmit with 10,000 times to another neuron. It is an important one mark question. Then the important point of this transmission, that is called an neurotransmitter. So neurotransmitter are a chemical which allow the transmission of nerve impulse from axon terminal of one neuron to another dendron of another neuron or another effector organ. That means, so our hand which was touching the hot plate, what it was doing? The sensory organ which can carry the electrical impulse in the form of chemical substance from the sensory organ to brain or spinal cord. Then the by brain or spinal cord, which can be give the command to the motor neuron, which is pass on with the muscle fibers. Then suddenly we are withdraw our hand. That is called the effector organ. Then the important neurotransmitter released by the neuron is called acetylcholine. Acetylcholine. It is another one type of one mark question. The next one we are going to be seen about human nervous system. Human nervous system. So the human nervous system, which is totally differ from the some other animals, but commonly the human nervous system which consists of three different types: CNS, PNS and ANS. So CNS is nothing but it is a central nervous system. Then PNS, that means peripheral nervous system. Then ANS, that means autonomic nervous system. So I will explain with the concept map three different types of nervous system, and they are consist of some different types of organ. So the central nervous system, which is controlled by brain and spinal cord, two organ. It may be asked from the one mark question. Then peripheral nervous system, that consists of cranial nerves and spinal nerves. Then autonomic nervous system, which is controlled by parasympathetic and sympathetic nerves, that is called a opposite reaction. Opposite reaction. Then first one we are going to be seen about central nervous system. Central nervous system. So the central nervous system, which consists of two type of organ, then by the same time it is a center for controlling all the activities of our body. So it is called an center for information processing and control. So they are passed on with all type of information and processing and controlled. Then it consists of two parts, brain and spinal cord. The image which shows that the head region we are consist of the brain, and the neck region we are consist of spinal cord. Then second one, the PNS, that is called peripheral nervous system. It is made up of with the nerve which connect the brain and the spinal cord, which is from the all the parts of the body. So the peripheral nervous system, they are getting the signal from the various parts of the body to brain and spinal cord. Then autonomic nervous system, that is consist of sympathetic and parasympathetic nerves. That is a contraction and relaxation, like that. Each and every cell, they have some kind of opposite reaction, which is controlled by the ANS. Then first one we are seeing about the central nervous system. The brain and the spinal cord being delicate the vital structure for the well protected in the bony cavity in the skull and the vertebral column respectively. That means the central nervous system, the brain which is located on the head. So the head which is covered with the skull. Inside of the skull we are having a cranial cavity. Then the cranial cavity, they are consist of the central nervous system, which consists of the two types of matter, such as white matter and gray matter, respect with the presence and absence of myelin sheath. So last class we have seen that the myelinated and non-myelinated neuron. That means the gray matter which is available in the outermost surface of the brain, then the white matter which is available in the innermost surface of the brain. Then the brain is controlling center for all the activities. So it covered with three different types of connective tissues. So the brain, so once the brain get damaged means the surveillance is a very difficult to the human being. So the brain was covered with the three kinds of connective tissues. What are they? First one, dura mater, arachnoid membrane and pia mater. Dura mater, not a meter, it is a matter. Dura mater, arachnoid membrane and pia mater. Dura, that called tough, then matter is a membrane. It is a outermost thick fibrous membrane. So it is in the form of very thick and presence of large quantity of fibers. Then arachnoid membrane, that is called in the form of spider. It is a network like structure which is available in the middle region. Thin vascular membrane providing the web like sham. So they are having some kind of net like structure. Then pia matter. So pia means soft. So it is the innermost and delicate membrane is richly supplied with the blood. So which is covered with the brain. So it is called a innermost layer. The next one we are seeing about all these three connective tissues. They are called an meninges. So meningitics or meninges. So the meninges is to protect the brain from the mechanical injury. So mechanical injury is nothing but once we are running or we are touching or we are fall down, by the same time our head was forced with the ground. At the time the brain was protected with the connective tissues. The next one we are seeing about the more to know or do you know question, the meningitis. So meningitis is nothing but it is some kind of infection or inflammation which is takes place on the meninges. So that is the brain membrane consists of any kind of infection or any kind of inflammation, that is called a meningitis. Inflammation is nothing but it is in the form of swelling, in Tamil weakam. It is occur when the fluid surrounding the meninges become infected. So many type of this infection which is caused by the viral and bacterial infection, so which is a very dangerous one to the babies. They are comes under the age of 5, which is explained in this diagram. Then the brain which consists of three different parts. Number one is called forebrain, midbrain and hindbrain. So from here the red color region, that is called forebrain, then yellow color region, that is called an hindbrain, then violet color region is called midbrain. So three different types, three different parts are available: forebrain, midbrain and hindbrain. Okay, so next one, the forebrain also consists of three parts. Forebrain also consists of three parts, that is called cerebellum, thalamus and hypothalamus. Cerebellum, thalamus and hypothalamus. So it is the cerebellum. So next one we are seeing about the cerebellum. It is the largest portion, the forming nearly 2/3 of the brain. So for example, if they have in the 300 gram or 400 gram, that means the 2/3 of the brain which consists of a cerebellum. The cerebellum is longitudinally divided into two halves. They are divided right and left. Right and left. They are called an cerebral hemisphere. By the deep cleft is called a median cleft. The deep cleft is called a median cleft. The two cerebral hemisphere are interconnected by the thick band of nerve fiber is called a corpus callosum. Corpus callosum. The outer portion of the each cerebral hemisphere is formed of gray matter is called cerebral cortex. I already told you gray matter and white matter. The gray matter is available on the outer. Then the inner deeper formed the matter is called cerebral medulla. Cerebral medulla. Then cortex is extremely fold and forming a evolution is called gyri. Then the presence between the term of sulci, it is increase the surfacing area. That means the brain is in the form of highly fold substance, because which is loaded with more quantity of information, and they are made up of with only in the special type of cell, that is called neuron. So it is in the form of half boil. So which is in the form of too much of coiled in nature. The next one, the cerebral hemisphere divided into the frontal lobe, then parietal lobe, temporal lobe and optical lobe. So which was controlled with various kinds of function. So from this one we are seeing that then the cerebellum is responsible for thinking. We are going to be think what we have to do in next. Then intelligence, our IQ, then consciousness, then memory, we are going to be memorized, then imagination, then reasoning and willpower, which was controlled by the cerebellum of the brain. The next one we are seeing about the thalamus. So it is indicating on this diagram. Without thalamus, the brain cannot be diagnosed the sensory information transmit to it. That means the thalamus, which is the relay center, because of the reason which was controlled by the sensory organ. Sensory organ. Without the sensory organ, we cannot be done any kind of activity. So thalamus is present in the cerebral medulla, is a major conducting center of the sensory motor signaling. Sensory and motor signaling. One more question. It is act as a relay center. It is act as a relay center. The next one we are seeing about the hypothalamus. Hypothalamus. It is lies at the base of the thalamus. Lies at the base of the thalamus. It control the involuntary action like hunger, thirst, sleep, sweating, sexual desire, anger, fear, water balance and blood pressure, etc., which is controlled by the hypothalamus. Then by the same time, the hypothalamus is act as a thermoregulatory, that means center of the body. That means they are maintaining the body temperature in the stable condition. So previous video I told you our body temperature is around 37 degrees Celsius. That means which was maintained by the hypothalamus. Because it is a summer season, our body is sweating more. Why it was sweating more? Because they are maintaining the body in the cool and maintain the normal body temperature. Because of the reason we are the warm blooded animal. Then it control the secretion of hormone in the anterior pituitary gland and important link between the nervous system and endocrine system. So next lesson we are going to be seeing about endocrine system. So the endocrine system which was secreted by the hormone, various types of hormone is available and they are secreted by various types of endocrine gland which was controlled by the hypothalamus. The next one we are seeing about the midbrain. It is located between the thalamus and hindbrain. Where it is located? In between the thalamus and hindbrain. The dorsal portion of the midbrain consists of 4 rounded bodies is called corpora quadrigemina that control visual and auditory reflexes. Visual, that means we are going to be seeing the object. It was imagined and which was memorized from the brain. Then auditory, that is called hearing. We are going to be here. So which is controlled by the midbrain. Then next one we are seeing about the hindbrain. So again I told you the hindbrain also consists of 3 parts. Then forebrain also consists of 3 parts, that is a cerebellum, thalamus and hypothalamus. Like that the hindbrain also consists of 3 parts, that is cerebellum, pons or medulla oblongata. Pons and medulla oblongata. Right. So the cerebellum. First one we are seeing about the cerebellum. It is a second largest part of the brain. So first largest part, that is called cerebrum. Second largest part, that is called cerebellum. The 2 large sized hemisphere in the middle veins. Then it's coordinate the voluntary action and also maintain the body balance. Voluntary action. We are going to be done some kind of voluntary action with a coordinated manner which is controlled by the cerebellum. The next one we are seeing about the pons or pons. The pons is a Latin word meaning is a bridge. So it is a connecting bridge. It is a bridge of nerve fibers that connects the lobes of the cerebellum. They are connect the lobe of the cerebellum. It is relay the signals between the cerebellum, spinal cord, midbrain, cerebellum. It control the respiration and sleep cycle. Respiration. We are going to be done the breathing. We cannot stop the breathing. Once if we are stop the breathing, what will be happen? We are in the dead body. And sleep cycle. So the sleep which is controlled by the brain, the region is called a pons. The next one we are seeing about medulla oblongata. The medulla oblongata is the posterior most of the brain that connects the spinal cord and various parts of the brain. So the medulla oblongata is one of the important part. What it was doing, they are connect the brain and spinal cord which is located on the neck region which is shows in this diagram. Then the medulla oblongata is the posterior most part of the brain that connects the spinal cord and various parts of the brain. It is a cardiac center. Why we are saying that a cardiac center? That means the cardiac, that means studying about the heart. Studying about the heart which is controlled various activities of heart. So it is called an cardiac center. Then a respiratory center, the breathing mechanism. Then vasomotor centers control the heartbeat. So our heartbeat is in the form of controlled. If it is increase and decrease, we are getting too much of problem. And respiration, contraction of blood vessels in respectively. So the blood, we can fold our hands, the blood vessels are closed, then open it. Suddenly the blood is passed on with all the parts of the body. And it also regulates the vomiting and salivation. So the vomiting center of the brain, that is called medulla oblongata, book back question. And salivation, that is called secretion of the saliva. Secretion of the saliva which contains some type of enzyme. Then another one question, the more to know, it's a very important thing. The electroencephalogram, it is a EEG. It is an instrument which is record the electrical impulse of brain. So ECG we are known already. So what is the uses of ECG? They are record about the heartbeat. Like that EEG which is an instrument which is record the electrical impulse of brain. So whether the brain they are getting any kind of infection or tumors or any kind of injury, we can find out by means of that EEG. So this is the animation which is explained that the transmission of signal from the sensory organ to central nervous system. Then central nervous system which can be give the command to the motor neuron, then which can pass on with the muscle fiber. Suddenly we are withdraw our hand is a flame. We are touching. The signal is passed on to the brain. Again the command is coming from the brain. What we are doing? We are remove our hand. The next one, this diagram and the animation shows that the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. The green color substance which is the spinal cord and brain which is exposed that the central nervous system. Then remaining pink and yellow color substance which is shows that the peripheral nervous system. The brain and the spinal cord is the central nervous system which controlled all the activities of our body, and the peripheral nervous system which getting the information from the various parts of the body through the nerve impulse and which is passed with the central nervous system. Then this diagram shows that how the nerve impulse are transmitted from brain to all the parts of the body. So already seen from this previous from that continuous lesson, the nerve impulse which can be transmitted by the 1000 times per second, and by the same time they are transmitted with the nerve impulse to another neuron for 10,000 times. Then this diagram and animation which shows that various functions of the brain. So this is the brain. I already told you the forebrain which consists of 4 lobes. The cerebrum which consists of 4 different types of lobes. Then each and every type of lobe they are done some kind of a specific function. First one, a frontal lobe which is controlled by behavior, intelligence, memory and movement. Then temporal lobe which controlled by behavior, hearing, memory, speech and vision. Then the brain stem which is in the form of yellow color substance, the blood pressure, breathing, consciousness, swelling. Then the heartbeat which is controlled. Then optical lobe which is controlled by the vision. So all these activities which is controlled by step by step process. Once the brain they are receiving the signal, then particular part they are receiving the signal and detector. Based on the detection they are done some kind of reaction. Then this diagram shows that the electroencephalogram EEG instrument, they are in the form of the equipment which is fixed on our head region. Then the gamma radiation is passed on with our body. What will be happen? The signal is recorded like a ECG. Then this is the graphical representation of this instrument. So the icon which is shows that the various kinds of menu bar, depending upon the menu bar and the wavelength, the data are recorded from different parts of the brain in the different frequency. Based on this output we are getting some kind of identification if anything is diagnosed from the brain, either it is a tumor or any kind of infection on the brain. Thank you.